I know all of you have heard of Zorro Ranch, the place in New Mexico that's connected to Jeffrey Epstein, and for some reason it's the only place that was never raided and there was never really any investigation into it. So I decided to make a video. I'm live right now on Twitch and YouTube, but I decided to make a video for you, the person who might be watching later. So let's talk about the compound that's in the high desert of New Mexico. 33,000 square feet of stucco, terracotta, and thermal mass sitting on a patch of the high desert outside of Stanley, New Mexico. Zorro Ranch doesn't look like much from the road, but an aerial view in a photograph in the indictment documents shows a compound of a low-slung buildings arranged around a central courtyard. A tennis court carved into the scrub, dirt paths leading nowhere in particular. It's the kind of place that a billionaire builds when he wants to be off the grid. Far enough from Santa Fe to be alone, but close enough to fly minor girls in. And that's exactly what happened. A tipster who worked for the ranch told the FBI that the foreman, David Gonzalez, who openly discussed how Epstein would fly girls in from Phoenix and Las Vegas to entertain his parties, her brother, who lived on the same highway, said people would stay at the ranch for roughly 1 month at a time, then return every 3 to 4 months. That's not casual visitation, bro. That's like a rigid schedule, a system, a rotation. New Mexico Attorney General Hector Balderas saw it in the same way. In a July 8, 2020 letter to federal prosecutors, he formally requested asset forfeiture of a property, stating that the state had provided investigative evidence regarding Jeffrey Epstein's use of the Zorro Ranch to facilitate the commission and the prolonged concealment of his trafficking of children. Not was used to facilitate and commission the prolonged concealment. That was in present tense, player. Like an active structure, a space built for a purpose and then hidden behind. Now, this is where it gets crazy, bro. If you're still here, can you just spam the chat with whatever you feel compelled to spam it with? Because the scientists, they knew about it, bro. But the trafficking, as grotesque as it was only half of what the ranch was meant to be. On multiple occasions, starting in the early 2000s, Epstein told scientists and businessmen about his ambitions to use the New Mexico ranch as a base where women would become inseminated with his sperm to give birth to his babies. According to 2 award-winning scientists and an advisor to companies and wealthy individuals, all of whom Epstein told directly, it was not a secret. One of the scientists said Epstein divulged the idea in 2001 at a dinner at his Manhattan townhouse. The other recalled Epstein discussing it at a 2006 conference he hosted in St. Thomas, the same conference where Stephen Hawking and Caltech theoretical physicist Kip S. Thorne were in attendance. The conference was ostentatiously about gravity. Epstein wanted to talk about perfecting the human genome. Dang, bro, the human genome, dude? Fuck, dude. What's this document? All right. The advisor in the group said he learned about the plan not just from Epstein, but from at least one prominent member of the business community who independently confirmed it. So this wasn't a private fantasy whispered to trusted confidants. It was a dinner party talking point, a man openly telling the most powerful people in the room that he intended to build a human breeding operation in the New Mexico desert and seed the next generation with his DNA. What the fuck, bro? I'm showing you the documents that are in the Epstein files, player. How else are we supposed to get real evidence about any of this except if we don't have a platform like Web to help us compile all applicable information? Imagine if you had to go onto the justice.gov website and click and look through every PDF that was there applicable to whatever topic. Web's goated, bro. I'd had to give a little chat prompt like I would a chat bot. It's not a chat bot. It doesn't hallucinate. It only takes information from the applicable data sets that I upload into Web, which for this specific Web, I have the 9/11 FIOA files, the FBI vault, and Jeffrey Epstein, bro. Thank you. Kevin is a human. Ian Carroll. But let's get into where the sperm bank that came before the island. Oh, did you know about a sperm bank that came before? John Lanier, the virtual reality pioneer who Epstein cultivated as a dinner companion, told investigators a chilling detail. At one of Epstein's Upper East Side mansion dinners, he spoke to a scientist who identified herself as working at NASA. What the fuck? She told Lanier that Epstein's goal was to have 20 women at a time impregnated at Zorro Ranch, and that Epstein had based his vision on repository for germinal choice. The repository for germinal choice was a real thing, a sperm bank founded in 1980 by California eugenist Robert Clark Graham, who made his fortune inventing shatterproof eyeglass lenses. Graham's idea was to stock his bank exclusively with sperm from Nobel laureates and other geniuses to strengthen the human gene pool. It opened for nearly 2 decades before quietly shutting down in 1999. Epstein wanted to pick up where it left off, but instead of distributing sperm to families, he wanted to centralize the entire operation at his ranch with himself as the sole donor. That's fucking gross. Oh my gosh, bro, this shit gets crazy, right? Lanier got the impression that Epstein was using his dinner parties, where some guests were attractive women with impressive academic credentials, to screen candidates to bear his children. What in the fuck? Okay, June 1st, 2011, email from Epstein's accountant is a master document sent to a recipient whose name is redacted. The subject line reads simply, where's it at? Will you be in LA then? Below is a list of names that Epstein addressed in the TO field. Paul Allen, Jeff Bezos, Stuart Brand, Sergey Brin, David Brooks, George Church, George Dyson, Ari Emanuel, Tony Fadell, Bill Gates, W. Daniel Hills, Bill Joy, Daniel Kahneman, Solar Kamenagar, Dean Kamen, Elon Musk, Nathaniel Mervovid, Pierre Almendrar, Tim O'Reilly, Larry Page, Sean Parker, Jean Pagozzi, Ricardo Salinas Pelagio, Nicholas Pritzker, Jacques Safari, Charles Samoni, Jeff Skoll, Ace Treisman, Craig Venter, William Wales, Evan Williams, Mark Zuckerberg. Shit, boy. Dang, all these people's names in this email. Weird. Elon Musk showed up again, bro. The Who's Line lists 4 scientists: Michael Gazzaniga, Martin Nowak, Steven Pinker, and Vladimir S. Rakhamadan as the featured guests at a Napa Valley event. That's not a dinner party. That's a board meeting of the technocratic elite, and Epstein was at the center of it, CCing himself to his own email, orchestrating access between the wealthiest men on Earth and some of the most influential minds in neuroscience and evolutionary biology. The people to see list from the 2014 September document, dedicated by Epstein to his assistant Leslie Groff, is equally dense. Bill Gates, Larry Summers, Leon Black, Mort Zuckerman, Peter Thiel, Bob Kerrey, plus financiers like Icahn or Carl Icahn or Boris. And we know from the other filings that Bill Clinton was on the plane. The indictment lists Clinton alongside Stephen Hawking and Al Gore as individuals Virginia Giuffre was asked about in discovery. And Epstein's pilot, Larry Vyosky, testified that Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, John Green all flew on Epstein's Gulfstream. The Prince and the harem. Prince Andrew has the deepest documented connection beyond the guest list. The Oversight Committee files relationship back to the 1990s, where Ghislaine Maxwell introduced the prince to her then boyfriend Epstein, and in 2000, Epstein was invited to Windsor Castle for the Queen's birthday. 6 months later, he flew to Sandringham, the Queen's private estate in Norfolk, a party Prince Andrew threw for Ghislaine's 39th birthday. Dang, Prince Andrew threw a party for Ghislaine's birthday, bro. Virginia Giuffre alleged in her 2015 declaration that Epstein asked her to give Prince Andrew whatever he required and report back with the details. A December 2010 dinner at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse included Prince Andrew, Woody Allen, Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos, Charlie Rose, and Chelsea Handler, according to a page 6 item that Epstein himself emailed his publicist, Peggy Segal, with the note, "Not good for Andrew, not good for me, not good for you." He knew the optics were radioactive, and he emailed about them anyways. Deep, what's up, guys? Who's here? Who we got over here? We got 7 people on YouTube. What's up, YouTube? Let's see, we got freaking 8 people up here on Twitch. What's up, Twitch? I love all of you. 3 people up over here on Facebook. Of course, Facebook's not wanting to push this, we know. All right. The cryonics in the head. This is the part where it reads like bad science fiction, except Epstein was funding research into it. On September 16th, 2009, Epstein emailed a link to Eva Dublin, wife of Glenn Dublin, the hedge fund billionaire and close Epstein associate, with nothing but a URL, www.alcor.org. Alcor is the world's leading cryonics organization, the company that freezes dead bodies in liquid nitrogen, hoping future technology can revive them. Epstein's interest wasn't passive. One adherent of transhumanism told investigators that Epstein discussed his desire to have his head and his penis frozen after death. He was obsessed with perpetuating his own DNA. Weird. What the fuck, dude? What the? In 2011, Epstein emailed his scientific advisor, Barnaby Marsh, with a list of project ideas that included building a mind reader using de-encryption and new understandings of the brain, a project on tissue regeneration or cloning, capitalization his, and including the New York Academy of Science. This is not a dissonant playing with ideas. This is a systematic agenda, bro. Mind reading, cloning, cryogenics, and a breeding program, all pursued simultaneously with the financial backing to make scientists listen. And then we got to talk about the possibility of a pipeline through MIT. Perhaps the most insidious thread comes from the congressional oversight email buried in the DOJ disclosures. The author writes about Epstein's connection to the MIT Media Lab and Little Bits engineering kits, electronics building blocks targeting at preteen girls, and expresses concern any data about usage or users of the kits might have been acquired by Epstein and ETAI in his efforts to screen potential members to join his herd at the ranch. The word is herd, not guests, not candidates. Herd. The same email mentioned James Damore and Kevin Cernicki, the Google engineers who circulated the infamous memo about biological differences between men and women, as agent provocateurs who infiltrated Google and who were linked to promoting the Pizzagate narrative. The connections are tangled, deliberately obfuscated, but the direction is clear. Epstein used his money and institutional access to seed his recruitment pipeline as early as preteen years through educational technology, through MIT's most prestigious lab, through programs that looked like charity but functioned as data collections. What the ranch actually was. Okay, so pull back and look at the whole picture, bro. Zorro Ranch was just a hideaway for wealthy men to abuse children. It was a 33,000 square foot laboratory for a specific vision, a place where, in Epstein's mind, three things would converge. A trafficking compound where girls were flown in from Phoenix and Las Vegas, kept for month-long stays on quarterly rotations under the management of a foreman who knew exactly what was happening on land the state of New Mexico explicitly identified as used for commission prolonged concealment of child trafficking. A eugenics breeding facility, the site where Epstein told Nobel laureates, tech billionaires, and NASA scientists he intended to pregnate up to 20 women at a time with his own sperm, modeled on a defunct Nobel sperm bank, screening candidates at his dinner parties from among attractive women with impressive academic credentials. The headquarters of a transhumanist agenda, where he'd bankroll mind-reading technology, tissue regeneration through cloning, and cryptic preservation of his own body parts, all while telling everyone who'd listen that he wanted to live for 1,000 years and seed the next iteration of the human species with his own genetic code. The most disturbing part of this whole file isn't any single document, the mundane normalcy of all of it. Emails about stucco repair and cooling replacements sit next to emails about building a mind reader and links to cryogenic labs, dinner invitations to the world's most powerful next to lists of people to see that read like who's in global finance, the recruitment of 14-year-old girls at Mar-a-Lago next to the impregnation plan discussed with Stephen Hawking's conference attendees. Can we not see, bruh? It was all part of the same project, bro. The trafficking wasn't a side hobby that coexisted with science, bro. The trafficking seems to me that it was a recruitment pipeline. The herd was a single concept applied across the age group, and the ranch is where all of it supposedly came together, dude. The document trail shows a constellation of figures who orbited this project, whether they knew its full scope or not. Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Stephen Hawking, Steven Pinker, Lawrence Krauss, Martin Nowak, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Bill Gates, Peter Thiel, Tom Barak, Steve Tisch, Tom Pritzker, Barnaby Marsh, the MIT Media Lab, Leon Black, Mort Zuckerman, Carl Icahn, Leslie Wexner, and then there are the ones whose names are redacted, bro. The black bars that run through hundreds of pages like a censor stamp of shame. What about the New Mexico contacts, though, like Governor Richardson, who is the sheriff, and local politicians, or the religious people, or the House staff, security 547 entry on the cryptic handwritten list? Here we go. Continues on. Epstein's interest in Alcor, the link he sent to that individual, it wasn't casual, bro. He sent that Eva Dublin, wife of Glenn Dubin, the hedge fund billionaire who was one of Epstein's oldest and closest friends, the man who helped manage his money during the 2008 plea deal. If Epstein was serious about cryogenics, he would have had the resources. Alcor currently charges $80,000 for neuropreservation. That's just your head. Whole body preservation is $200,000. Epstein could have afforded both of those many times over. The Alcor connection points to a man who genuinely believed he wouldn't stay dead, that his head and penis would one day be reanimated in the future, where his DNA, his superior genetic material, would continue its work. This is deep. And that brings it back to the ranch, bro. If you believe in cryogenics, if you believe you'll wake up in 200 years, then you would need a plan for what happens when you do. You would need a place. You would need heirs. You would need a herd. And Zorro Ranch wasn't just a crime scene, bro. It was the seed vault for a post-humanist dynasty. So what's missing from the documents is telling as what's there. The ranch's foreman, David Gonzalez, is described as now deceased in a tipster report. But there's no autopsy, no cause of death, no timeline. The tipster's brother, also witnessed, is deceased too. Two people who knew about the girls flown in from Phoenix both died by the time the FBI asked questions. A 2001 dinner where Epstein first pitched the baby plan, the attendee list is not in the files. The 2006 St. Thomas conference where he pitched it again, the full guest list is not in the files. The NASA scientist who told Jaron Lanier, the 20-year-old woman at the time, detail, she's not in the files. Redactions, bro. Hundreds of pages of people whose names remain behind black bars, bro. Please comment if you're still here. Release the files. Because their connections to Epstein are only known to the FBI and the DOJ. Some of those names almost certainly appear somewhere else in the document set, and some of them are almost always going to certainly be alive. Do you ever think we're going to get justice, bro? Do you think the American government is going to arrest anybody? Do you think that Donald Trump's going to pardon Ghislaine Maxwell? I don't know, bro. I have 4 children, bro, so this thing really freaking just hits home for me, bro. I want to protect my children. And it seems to me in today's day and age, there's 2 things. Brainwashing, MK Ultra through screens and algorithms, I need to protect my children from. And then it's obvious that there's some really sick and satanic pedophiles that are worth a whole bunch of money that seem to be cultivating in these circles, bro. I don't know. I just felt like I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could about Zorro Ranch. I wanted to help you possibly learn about Zorro Ranch. I pay for a tool provided by Ian Carroll and Kevin is a Human called Web that allows me to learn about Zorro Ranch, and I just felt like I should share this with you. I love you guys. Peace out.